Welcome, everyone. Welcome today, or welcome back if you were with us yesterday. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about going from invisible to influential. And today, what I really want to focus on is for those of you that may already be in a position of leadership, but are struggling to grow beyond your current role. I want to talk about some things that may prove helpful for you. And one thing that I want to start with is a line that might sound pretty simplistic, but it's also one of the biggest shifts that I find that new leaders find themselves having to make, and even sometimes seasoned leaders, if we're being totally honest here, is that doing the work will get you noticed, but leading the work will get you promoted, right? So you want to get noticed, that's awesome. Doing the work, being a doer, being that tactical person will help you. But if you want to move beyond that and you want to get into positions of leadership or senior leadership, get those promotions, then you need to make that shift from being the doer to leading the doers. So sit on that a minute, because it's a little bit of a trap, if you will. The people that get promoted into leadership are being recognized for the things that they're great at, which is doing, getting things across the finish line, completing projects. They're the ones that are seen as reliable, as getting things done, as staying late to make sure that the project gets completed or goes out on time, and they will get noticed. But the moment that you step into leadership, there's a shift. It's not just doing more of the same or doing it better or becoming more noticeable. It's breaking into the strategic of leading others, and from going from tactical to strategic. Not only is it a gap that needs to be bridged, but it can also turn into a trap, and what I like to call the tactical trap, right? So the tactical trap, as I see it, as I define it, is when you're in a position of leadership, but you're still acting as an individual contributor. So you're supposed to be leading, but you're acting as if you're a doer. They're two different things, right? And I've heard this term like working manager, that's sort of a morph of both. And you'll get with that the results that you would expect, right? Is either it's going to be watered down versions of both the doing and the leading, or you'll get people that get burnt out because they think that it is their responsibility to do all the things and be all the things and lead the people. So that's what I define as that tactical trap, right? Is working as an individual contributor, even though you're supposed to be leading. And whether you're asking yourself if this applies to you, maybe you know right away, like, oh yeah, that's my problem, or maybe you don't recognize it. I'll share a couple of thoughts that maybe might resonate with you if you are falling into this trap. So if you're reviewing other people's work, every single email, every single deliverable before it goes out, it might be under the veil of perfectionism, or you're jumping in to fix things instead of letting your team handle them, or you feel like if you don't personally touch everything or wrap it up, it won't get done right. Do any of these ring a bell for you? And if so, you don't need to figure out all that by yourself. I am here to help you figure out how you can start bridging that gap, how you can fix it. Because the hard truth is that the skills that got you promoted are not the same skills that are going to keep you moving up. If you stay stuck in the weeds, you'll always be known as the best doer and not necessarily the best leader. And for some of you, that may be okay. You might be very comfortable in the space of doer and not want to lead others. But if you are one of the people that does aspire to continue that momentum through levels of leadership, then you probably don't want to be known as only the doer. So let's do a quick reflection about this past week. And one quick way to do that might be just go back and look at the last 5 working days on your calendar. Did you spend more time doing the work yourself or creating space for others to do their best work? Because that's usually a pretty telling question. And here's why it matters. Staying tactical limits your visibility. When senior leaders and executives are in the room making decisions, they're not asking, hey, who's the best at building spreadsheets? They're asking, who can set the direction? Who can influence outcomes? Who can build trust and deliver results? That's the difference between being tactical and being strategic. And if you think of it this way, when you're tactical, like let's compare it to an orchestra, right? When you're more in the tactical, you're playing a single instrument in the orchestra. And yes, your contribution matters, because if you're offbeat, whatever song is being played is also going to be impacted, right? It's not going to sound quite the same. But when you step into leadership, you're more of the conductor of the orchestra. You're not playing every instrument. You're actually setting the tone and guiding the pace and making sure the whole orchestra is creating a song that's in sync together. So that's different, right? Like they're each important parts, but playing a single instrument and only being responsible for the sound that's coming out of your single instrument is much different than coordinating the sound that's happening across multiple instruments at different times. So not only timing and sound and all of that. So there is quite a difference. And I think that that's a really good way to compare how an individual contributor and a leader may differentiate, and why the focus needs to be different as you step into those positions of leadership. So how can we put this in practice? How do you actually break out of that trap? There's three shifts that I want to share with you today that will help start bridging that gap. The first one is delegating, and delegating with intention. I'm not talking about just get the things off your plate that you don't want to do, right? It's actually giving people ownership and clarity and expectations and accountability and their own space to shine. Because when you do this as a leader, it's not just about lightening your load, it's about multiplying the impact, because you're using a whole team, and ideally you're playing to people's strengths. So shift number one, delegating with intention. Shift number two, moving from answers to questions. Because as a doer, or as an individual contributor, your instinct might be to say, well, here's how I would do it. Let me tell you how I would do it. And step A, B, and C, right? But as a leader, as you're building a team, your power is going to come from asking, well, what do you see? Or what do you think? Or how would you approach this? Not only is that going to free up some of your mental capacity, but you're actually building the team's problem solving capacity instead of keeping them dependent on you. And that's not going to make you obsolete, right? That's actually going to free you up to be able to step into the thought process and the focus of bigger and better things, right? So it's a win-win. So shift number two, again, move from answers to questions. Instead of telling people what to do, asking them what they might do. And then shift number three would be redefining your wins. Where as an individual contributor, it's about like, I did this, I crushed it, I'm being successful. And now it's more about your team and them being in the limelight and what you can do to elevate their voice and help them grow. Because by extension of that, their growth is going to be a reflection on you. If the people on your team are not succeeding, if they're not team players, if they're not growing, that will also be a negative reflection on you as a leader. So all these three shifts, delegating, moving from answers to questions, and redefining how you look at wins, they all tie into how leadership really shows up. Because as a leader, you're now directing people on what they need to do, but you're not telling them how to do it, right? So tell them what to do, let them figure out the how, and then you're teaching them how to think, how to reason, how to come up with solutions, but you're not telling them what to think. You're leading a horse to water, right? Sort of thing. So let that one sink in, because it is a shift, especially when you have to leave room for people to make mistakes. It's not always easy, but that's really where the growth lies, right? Is people attempting something because they think it's the best solution. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But you being able as a leader to sort of take a step back and let people learn and grow is part of your, not only their growth, but your growth as a leader as well. So here's the thing. Breaking out of this tactical trap isn't something that like you're going to snap your fingers or you're going to get off this call and it's going to happen overnight, right? It's going to be a process. It takes some time. It takes intention. It takes support at many levels. And that's exactly why I built my program, Potential to Power. I built it with 4 tiers. And you may have heard this saying before, new levels bring new devils. And that's because as you grow in your career, so are the challenges and the dilemmas that you'll face. You'll be finding new things that you never had to encounter before at, maybe prior levels of your career. So I wanted to be able to offer something for leaders, for aspiring leaders at all levels of their career, and be able to give them tools that they can start using right away. And I'm also actually working on some free and very low cost options for those of you that maybe want to take it a little slower and aren't ready to jump into any one-on-one work. I will share some links on where you can get a little bit more info on that. But I am very, very grateful that you were able to join for this session. This is really all the time that we have for today. But again, very, very glad that you're here. And whether you're here live or you're on a replay, I'm glad that you're here, and I hope to see you on the next session.